Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show. I'm your host, Christine Innes, and I'm so delighted to have you all come and join us for this really amazing, beautiful, soulful conversation I'm going to have with the very lovely Kate. And I'm so grateful that you're here today and we can have I just actually know it's going to be a really great conversation. And I say this to most people that I talk to, but we've had some really fantastic conversations. So I just know that it's all kind of, we're going to give so much content to people and, really be able to help them, if they want to leave the corporate life, start business for themselves and, really to start exploring, the possibilities of living life to their fullest and on their own terms. So thank you so much, lovely, for joining me today. I'm so grateful to have you here. So
thank you, Christine.
You're welcome, lovely. So do you want to sort of introduce yourself to everybody, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and really what was your line in the sand moment that made you decide to go into business for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. This is I'm so happy to be here and I really appreciate, being able to interview me like this to help others. So, but yeah, my name's Kate Payne and I'm sort of more renowned now for Kate Payne Lifestyler, and I'll get to sort of maybe why that lifestyler sort of popped into my head. And it was a lot of elements that come together through, obviously transitioning and changing my career. So yeah, I'm from Brisbane, Australia, obviously, and not too far from the Gold Coast. Actually moving to the Gold Coast, so anyone watching from the Gold Coast, say hi. But yeah, I really would love to, help others to be able to open up their mind and appreciate who they really are and just really get back in touch with themselves to be able to become a healthier version, a happier version, and, just the kind of version of themselves that I love to inspire people. And I know that it helps others to be able to hopefully open up and become who they want to become as well. So because I found working in the corporate world for I'd say, and nearly over 20 years, working my working life. From high school, I came out of high school and I decided I was going to work in a corporate office, and I really wanted to work in administration. I wanted to be part of a large organisation with a lot of people because I love people. So, but, just that moment of high school and then change has been phenomenal over the last 20 years. So I've, wanted to prove myself to others a lot of the time, which is kind of sad, really, unfortunately. And I got myself educated. I completed my degrees, and I decided to do Bachelor of Business. So I love business and I find it to be something that you can take with you no matter where you go. But then I realised that I had these hobbies. So there was these hobbies that I was doing alongside my work, and I was working full-time, studying part-time. And then all of a sudden I had these children. And I have two beautiful children now and I'm married to my lovely gorgeous husband, and I really appreciate the opportunity that I had opened up in front of me, and that was to connect with other people that were more, I guess, genuine, down to earth. As a parent, we have our bad days, but we also have a lot of good days. So I was able to connect with a lot more parents on a different level while I was working as well. But I found that going back and working after maternity leave to be really, really stressful, not just for myself, but for my family in regards to traveling. So the travel to the city and back, that 3 hours travel was great for study time, but not so great when you feel guilt. You carry that guilt with you. I felt that guilt of dropping the children off to before school care, or my daughter. She was a little baby then. So I felt guilt, dropping her off. And after a while, I thought, you know what? Maybe I need to be home more, because this is putting not only pressures on me, pressures on my family, but also I started to realise that I could be somebody else. I didn't have to be, that person that was working 9 to 5 and 5 days a week and study. And so I decided to leave. And the most critical moment for that was a little bit of the past. So a little bit of the past crept in regards to every day I got on that train. I will share with you that I was scared to get off that train at night, especially during winter, because I went through a very traumatic experience. So a few years prior to having a family, I was actually, kidnapped and assaulted. Now, this is pretty serious, guys. So, so on the train, it was a late night, and I won't go into the details, but it's sadly, bad things can happen to us and when we least expect them. And when that had happened, I went back to work. I tried to live a normal life. It was very, very scary and also very stressful on me. But this was well prior to having the children. But, you know, when you're working full time, catching a train and living in fear every single day, wondering, you know, who's behind me? Is this going to happen again? You know, this sort of thing as well, as the fact that I was carrying the guilt. So not only was I carrying fear with me, but also guilt. It helped me to make that real decision about changing my life, and that was to go and work from home. So, and being such an entrepreneurial sort of mindset, I like to come up with new ideas. I like to make processes and systems easier for other people. I thought to myself, why don't I just, why not give it a go? So I decided to start up an online business. It was actually a private kind of business, but all the big companies went and started opening up their businesses online, and I was feeling very low after that point and thought, oh no, you know, how am I going to survive? I can't work from home and not have the business running successfully. So I guess reinventing myself. So I reinvented myself, and then other things started coming into my life. So I got offered other opportunities. I started meeting other people who work in the work for themselves as well. So once you start working for yourself from home and you start going out and actually connecting with other people who are doing exactly the same thing, I find that to be very, very important. And it helps you realize that you're not alone working around at home with your family, but you've got so many other people out there. So does that help with, so I've touched on the fears. So I opened up my mind to the fact that I could become something else, you know, not just be that, office girl that everybody knew me as. And, letting the fears drive me into doing something different that was not going to make me feel so uncomfortable. So I was actually happy that I realised I didn't have to catch that train every day on the way home, especially during the middle of winter when it's really dark. So, but the expectations of others. So I would say, guys, so with your expectations, don't let anyone's expectations get in the way of your, what makes you feel more comfortable with where you're heading in your career and your life, because it's not always about what everyone else expects. Sometimes it's honestly just, it's your destiny, your vision, or where you want to go with your life. So yeah. So does that help?
Oh, absolutely. And I really just want to honor you, you know, so much, because I know how difficult it is actually when you're sharing and being this very raw and vulnerable with people and really sharing it. And I think, as women, we can sometimes put this, oh, it's okay sort of thing, but we know the emotions. We know that even sometimes just talking about it, even though we've done the work, it can still bring up those fears and it can still bring up those insecurities within us. And so I really want to honor you and say thank you so much for, being that raw and vulnerable with us today and sharing that story as part of your reason as to why. And,
there was also, sorry, I didn't touch on the bullying either. So there was a bit of bullying that was happening as well at the same time, by someone. But that was just the icing on the cake for my decision as well.
And I think sometimes that it's quite interesting, because I went to an event earlier this week, and one of the things we talked about is that when we have these fears or we have this sort of trauma that happens, is that we want to run away from it. And actually sometimes that's the best thing too, because it actually opens up so many possibilities for us. Whereas
Yes.
that is, you know, we look at it always as a bad thing, but it's actually, it can be such a positive impact in our life that we're running from it, but it allows us to open up so many doors for us going forward. And, you know, in your case, it's opened up, you know, multiple opportunities for you, and you get to be there with your beautiful babies, and, you know, you get to create a life that you truly love. And, you know, you're lit up, you know, every time we talk, you're always so, you know, you're lit up because you're doing what you want to do, you know. And I think that's been because we're so authentic in what we're doing and the message we want to share. But we've come from that fear, we've come from that trauma, and we're going in a completely different direction because we actually want to create something new for us, because we know there's something better, instead of sitting here and, I guess, not playing the victim anymore. And
Yeah, so I didn't realize I was so much the victim until, you know, you've just, I guess I let the fear drive me. So like, you know, maybe, you know, let the fear drive you towards your, you know, what your passion is. And sometimes our passions are hidden in our hobbies. So, you know, I was doing the makeup artistry as a hobby, but now I get to incorporate that in part of what I do to help others. I guess the idea is, you know, to help others feel pretty as well. You know, sometimes it's not about just ego, and sometimes it's just about helping that person open up to feel good about themselves again. And that's such a nice feeling. So let those fears, if they have fears or, you know, traumas, post-traumatic, like for example, stress disorders, you know, high anxieties in certain situations. Yeah, like you said, Christine, absolutely. Like if you can remove yourself a little bit from those feelings, it can make you feel better about yourself, but also maybe allow you to redirect your focus onto something that you really want to do. Yeah.
And I think, you know, we're all quite capable. I always say, look, I can have a pity party and I can do it very, very well. And I can feel so sorry for myself and, you know, sit there and, you know, with it. But I always allow myself to have it. But I give myself a time frame of going, you know what? You can sit down and you can have a cry in a movie, or you can eat the chocolate, eat all the crap that you want to do, you know, and be in that moment. But after this time, that's it. You're done with it, and you can leave it there. So I really want people to know that you still need to feel those emotions. And I think,
Yes, you need to go through the motions to be able to work yourself through it. Sometimes people just want it to go away because they don't want to deal with it.
yes,
But, you know, until you deal with it, it won't go away.
exactly. And you have to feel them. And I think so many times that we're told, oh, you're so emotional. So for me, I'm an emotional person. And I used to think that that was something so bad. But I actually think that that is now, I say it's actually one of my superpowers, because I can actually feel, you know, when somebody else is upset or when somebody's happy, like all that sort of stuff. And I allow those emotions to come through, and it's not me like trying to be there with them. I'm just actually being quite empathetic with them, and I really want to honor them for, you know, releasing that. And we have to release the emotions, because otherwise it can actually build up into such a toxic state within our body, and that is where illness and all that can actually start to come from. And I know this quite well because I didn't want to show anything. I didn't want the world to know that my whole world was crumbling at that stage. I wanted to put on this big face, but now it's like, okay, I need to show up. I need to be raw. I need to be vulnerable. I need to allow these emotions to come out. And that makes such a huge impact in my life, but we don't realize the impact that it has on other people. So, I mean, from you sharing your story, you know, it had an impact on me when we first talked about it, because I'm like going, you know what?
I haven't really shared it social media wise, and it is because it is so sensitive, and it's something that, you know, when I say certain things, I guess others have an idea about what they think it looked like, but, you know, I guess at the end of the day, we're all survivors in what we do, but from something that's happened to us. So everyone has their story, and, you know, mine might seem, wow, gosh, you know, I didn't no, that happened, but they've got things that have happened to them or is going to happen
Yeah.
that they don't know about yet. And you really need to help yourself be prepared a little bit, maybe for, okay, what happens if you do lose, because people get made redundant every day. What happens if you do lose your job? And, what would you love to do if you weren't working in the corporate world, in a job that that is causing a lot of stress and anxieties and possibly, but I mean, I'm not saying no one, I mean, I did love working in the with other people in the office. That's what I just loved, being in that, I guess, that's environment of having an atmosphere and connection, and that sort of thing. But when you have things happen to you that, obviously really knock you off your feet, like literally, you have to make a decision, what am I going to do now? So, but for me to be present with my family and not in living in fear, was so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing that I try and teach my clients is you need to own your story. And that's what you did. You owned it. And when you actually own it, you actually become more empowered, because you're not giving away that feeling to anybody else. You're actually taking the power back yourself and going, you know what, I'm owning everything. And, it doesn't always have to be like traumatic or anything like that. But if we make a bad decision, own it and just go, you know what? Okay, that was a mistake. I've learned from that. Okay, I'm taking a moment, process it, and I move forward. But you have to own it, because otherwise you can't move forward and you can't learn from it and can't realize that you don't want to be that person anymore, or you want to change. So I really, as I said, honor and respect what you've done, because you've really owned the story and really been able to make these positive changes, going forward. And now you're using that like in such a really powerful way to be able to, change people's lives. And,
Yeah. So understanding like who you are is the most, I guess, the key thing I can share today as well. Is, the key thing for me was understanding where I'm at, who I am, and where I want to go with my life. And it wasn't all about me. So obviously I have a family to consider, and that was the biggest decision that helped push me to say, right, okay, I'm a little bit more creative than the average person working in finance, because, I wasn't just in finance, but I did work in a sort of, I guess, a financial position for quite a long time. And, it just, I guess I'm just my personality. So sometimes we need to have a look and learn about who we are. And that could be, which personality are you? What kind of person are you? Are you an extrovert, introvert, extroverted introvert, or an introverted extrovert? So there's so many different ways to decide which sort of direction you want to go with your career or your, work for yourself. And if you want to work for yourself, you can always have that backup of, like for me, for example, I'm always open to, I'm happy to work part-time, but the only thing is, it's not that simple to come across, and also there's not always a job available that's going to work around my vision and where you're heading, and that schedule that you would like to have that's flexible around your family, flexible around even if there's someone ill in your family. You might not have children, you might have a pet, you want to stay home and work from home because you know that you've had this beautiful little dog or cat. Maybe you've got a cat or a dog, I'm not sure, but they become family, and sometimes our pets get sick, and people have to feel guilty about leaving their poor animal at home. And they think, well, gosh, maybe I really should take up and do what I was going to do 2 years ago, or maybe I should go and do that course that's going to get me to the career that I really, really wanted. So so there's different, I guess you've got to throw your ideas around in your head and go, well, what will really make me happy?
Yeah. And I think it's a really simple question to ask, but we forget to actually do it so often. Like, what would actually make me happy? And it's going back to you, because we are well, I'm a people pleaser. So I know that that's one of my things that I'm constantly working on, because I want to please everybody and I do so much for everybody. But sometimes you need to take that moment and you're not being selfish. You're literally just giving back to you, and you're asking yourself, what is actually going to make me happy? And,
Yeah.
you know, if anybody takes away any piece of advice, ask yourself that question every single day, because you need to know what's actually going to make you happy. And that can change daily, hourly, whatever, like throughout, you know, your life. But just
Yeah.
do what makes you happy, because at the end of the day, it's your life. It's, you know, it's what you want to get out of it, not what is sort of expected. And we try to follow what society thinks or follow what social media thinks, but it's what is actually making you happy. And if you can do it and you be yourself and so authentic, like, you will feel this amazing sense of balance in your life. And I mean, I can definitely speak from experience with that.
So I had another scare, was over a year ago now, and I got a cervical cancer scare. So haven't shared that with anyone really much, maybe a couple of people, because of not wanting to upset those that are still dealing with it right now. So I'm really sorry for those that are really struggling with that right now. But I didn't expect that, and I ended up just completely going, right, just relax. So I ended up taking, more time to relax, more time for me to really focus on my health and be able to take that and help others is something that I'm really excited about doing as well now. So, these things that happen to us, and I mean, the doctors said, she hadn't been able to tell anyone that they were in the clear for 2 years. So, that was a really pivotal moment in my mind only a few months ago now, or 2 months ago now, that I got that news. And the best advice I've got about that one is, if you're doing something that makes you feel good and makes you feel happy, you can conquer anything. And I just think that if you just look after yourself more, you're able to not only be happy, but you're able to, show others that, hey, it's possible. You can just go and do what you want to do and be with who you want to be with, and just having that more positive attitude as well. So I think if I was still working, 38 hours a week, and I was traveling on that train in fear, I think that I don't think that would have helped the situation, and it possibly could have escalated to a point where you realize, wow, it could have gotten really, obviously, very, very serious, and I may not be here for my family. So we really need to really focus on our positivity and our own mindset, so that I guess we can, be well, so be healthier, and like you say, like if you can be happy, so that can change not only your mindset but also your physically, and so things are affecting you in your environment, so, and affecting you physically as well. So it's not only just, not just being happy, but just making you sick. So I didn't know that I was letting a lot of things get to me, actually over a year ago, that because things don't always go the way you want them to go straight away, and sometimes they take a little bit of time, and you don't always get that positive feedback from people that you were hoping for, but you just got to keep pushing through it and having that, like you say, just, okay, this is not working, but that's okay, we can work on this, but as long as you're still in the same direction, and things might move a little bit from left to right, but at the end of the day, it matters what you do today.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, I always use an analogy that, there is actually no road up to the moon. So, I mean, they but, they've been able to get there multiple times. So life is very much similar to that. And I think also the journey in business is like so much like that, because you have this end destination, and that can actually even change of what you might see or it might look like. But just to know that, first of all, that you've set this pathway. I said that is like one of the biggest things that people can do. But when you actually decide to hit that destination in your own internal GPS, and you actually want to follow it, and if you take twists and turns and all that sort of stuff, it's perfectly okay. And we need to allow ourselves to just appreciate those moments, to go, you know what, damn, I'm good, because I'm actually doing what I said that I'm going to do, like, because we don't give ourselves enough credit, for just taking those actions. And it's those little actions that will actually add up to a big, massive milestone. And we need to honor and respect those little moments in life, because they're the ones that actually make the big impact. And that small step of, when we all get up out of bed in the morning, like, seriously, we need to go, good on you for doing that today, because otherwise it's so easy to stay in bed.
Oh yeah, that's big time. I would love to just stay in bed just that extra hour, but when you have kids, you got to take them to school.
I know. The alarm went up this morning, and I'm like going, oh, like the workout's like at 5:30. I'm like going, oh my God, I could just really just stay. And I was really cozy. And I'm like going, no, but you've committed to do this and that. So, it is mindset. And I'm a really big believer that your mindset can actually shape and change your life so dramatically. And it is actually from the start of the first thought that you have in the morning. So, and I'm guilty of it. I wake up and I'm going, oh, but if I catch myself doing it, I'm going, no, today's going to be a good day. And then you go, okay, well, today is going to be a good day. So I have to get up and actually start this day. And it just has this sort of follow-on effect with it. So mindset, I think, is actually massive in every aspect of life and business as well.
Yeah, sometimes I just have to put one foot out of the bed on the floor. That's just telling my body, yeah, you have to get up today, and you need to do those things that you said you were going to do yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to ask you sort of, what have been some of the biggest changes that you felt within yourself? So coming from a personal side by being in business for yourself.
Wow. So I guess embracing the confidence that in the beginning that you don't have. You can smile all day and people think you're like just a confident person, and oh, Kate, she's just like, that's her personality. She's just friendly, and she just she's just confident. But it's actually, when I get nervous, I actually smile more. So I remember even going into interviews, and I would smile the entire time, which they thought was great, but I was actually nervous as hell. So, I think just embracing that it's okay not to be fully, there. So no one's always absolutely where they want to be in that moment, and embracing that you're not, like, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect, and everyone's got their challenges at home. So those that turn up, and say, for example, it's a small business meetup with the girls, or it's one of those you've seen those speed networking things. Just showing up for yourself, be there because you decided and you knew in your heart that that's exactly where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do in your own self. So that confidence, like you say, authentically, if you can just be yourself, because no one else can be you. And whatever it is that helps you feel confident. So maybe it's because you love Pilates, or like you love to read, maybe you like reading books, maybe there's something that you love to do that helps you feel more confident about who you are, and then taking that feeling with you. So even when you're in an uncomfortable situation, say for example, you're there and you've got this great, it's all happening, you're in a meeting, or you've got a coffee with someone, and you think, not to think negatively and think, oh, they're not going to want to be part of what I'm trying to achieve, or they're not going to be jumping on board or anything. Just try not to think in a negative way, I guess, so embrace who you are, and just, yeah, just let it happen and let it flow. Because sometimes you think, well, I'm on the wrong track. This is not who I was meant to be talking to today. And, we get these ideas about who we're supposed to be talking to or where we're supposed to be going with it. But the universe has bigger ideas. And when you've got that idea about where you're heading, and then you've got all these, you think, oh, why is this person interested in my business? Or why do they want to connect with me? And sometimes it's just unexplainable, but sometimes things come into your life because that's where you're meant to be. And I guess, and sometimes it's a lesson we need to learn.
Yeah. Look, I know there's so much there, because I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, we can lack the confidence and we want to try and project it, but we need to know that, first of all, we're perfectly imperfect, and where we're meant to be in life is exactly where we're meant to be. And the universe does work in these mysterious ways, but it does send us stuff, lessons learned, but also sends us beautiful rewards. And it's about embracing all of those moments with it. And I love what you said about, going and building that community, because I really think that when you start off in business, by yourself, it is actually quite a lonely and daunting sort of experience. And, just connecting with like-minded people, and you can actually hear the real stories, not hearing from what's coming also on social media when they're going, oh, I made 10K in 2 months and, all this sort of stuff. Actually hear it from the people that are, doing the work and out there, putting themselves out there, building the business from scratch, and, doing the hard yards. And it is a learning curve with absolutely everything that we do in life. I mean, if we all remember what it's like, starting to learn to drive, we sit there and like, going, oh my God, is it in park? We're going to check the mirrors and all that. That's what, it is like, we're like so tightly, on the steering wheel, like, that's what it's like, going into business, because you have to learn these key sort of road rules as such. And if you can learn them from people that are doing it already and they're willing to share those pitfalls, I think that is the best thing that you possibly can do.
I love that analogy about learning to drive. So yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you have to reverse before you can get into the right position to go forward.
Absolutely. And it's just, I always go back to that, because I can remember when I was learning to drive, and I really feel so sorry for my parents, like really, like I'm like going, I don't know how you did it, with 3 kids and that. But, you sort of sit there and, and then when I was starting to teach my son to drive, and you go, oh my goodness, like, I have to try and remember back all those years of what it felt like. And, you bring back all those emotions. And I think when we start becoming leaders in the community and, spreading such, powerful messages like you and I do, is that we also need to remember to take ourselves back to those moments and remember what it's felt like, and just hold that beautiful sacred space for people as well, because it is a journey. And when you go into business, you are going to uncover so much more about yourself that you never thought was possible, because you're exposed like in a big way.
Yay. Perfectly imperfect.
That's right.
Yeah. With the driving, my mother, she just handed me the keys and said, here, fine, you want to learn how to drive around the block and don't scratch it. That's my mum. And she's, she has taught me strength, I tell you. And also just to, give it a go. So, absolutely. And, that was very scary, a scary moment for me again. So I guess, you just embrace the fear.
Embrace the fear. Absolutely. I love that so much. We just embrace that fear and use that fear to drive you to your next destination, because it will get you so much further, opposed to allowing you to be consumed by it as well. So I love everything that you do, and I want to be able to share that with the world as well. So what I will be doing is putting all of Kate's details below. So if you want to reach out to her, have a softball chat with her, all her details about her programs and all that will actually be on there for them, so they can get in touch with you. I want to say a really big thank you for you for coming on today and really, you know, showing up and being that vulnerable and sharing your experiences so that we can, you know, you can help so many other people. And thank you so much. So yeah, is there any last piece of advice that you want to give to people about life or going into business?
Yeah, there's one very important thing that a lot of business owners I've noticed over the years, since I've been at a lot of corporate sort of small business events, because you know, to meet others. One of the things that really stands out to me over the years is take that day off. Take that day off, even if it's half a day. Just even if it's half a day, use that day. Even if it's okay. So sometimes people just want to use that for planning, but just take a step back. Just take a step back, and it's incredible what ideas can pop into your head and how much clearer everything can become when you just take that time out. So, you know, sometimes we think, oh yeah, no, that's cool, I'm just gonna have a quick lunch break, and oh, that's okay, oh, I better take that call, I better do. No, just drop everything and just take the day. So I try to take a Sunday every week, and that's my planning day now. I've learned a few things along the way, so but I'm just, you know, really looking at, so however you do your planning, but try to do that away from your very important time that you have with those your loved ones, you know, or even if you're on your own, just go somewhere you love to go to the beach, go, you know. So just having that time out at least once a week, because I see and hear a lot about, oh, business, you know, we're running this business, I've got to keep, you know, and it takes over your life. And you don't want to let that happen, because then you think, well, this is all too hard, and it becomes too hard if you work yourself into the ground. So just take that day off and maybe refocus and do some planning.
I love it. I think it's a critical piece of advice that people really need to do, because you generally go into business because you've got a passion for something. And if you don't take that time out, that passion dies off. And then you're actually asking yourself, well, why am I even doing this? So it allows you to reconnect back with your business and reconnect back to yourself. So critical piece of advice. And thank you so much for bringing that up, because I think it's so needed for people, especially when you're in business for yourself, just to be kind to yourself.
What are the plants? Because I'm the worst. I can't talk about plants because I kill all my plants. But I find if I can just take a day off and just spend some time and start looking after those things, everything will be much, much better.
Yeah. Well, I have a girlfriend day. That's what I do. I would say to my girlfriends, well, what are you doing? And they're like going, I don't know. And I said, well, no. Like, you just tell me which day you're free. I said, and that's the day I'm taking off, because I need that sort of connection and, you know, just to have that time just to sort of de-stress and, you know, take that pressure off myself. So yeah, I say it's a girlfriend day, and whether or not we catch up or we're on the phone or something like that. But yeah, just a girlfriend day and just do what girls chat about. So it's great.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone for coming and joining us today. As I said, I will put Kate's details below so you can reach out to them. Thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you, Kate, for coming on today and sharing your story, and also, you know, all your wisdom and learning experiences as well. I'm your host, Christine Innes, and thank you so much for joining in this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show.